Now that I have been back from the trail for a little bit, I've had some time to really reflect on my experience through hiking the Colorado Trail. I wanted to share that with you, and if you did watch my video series day by day from the very beginning, you know about the trials and the challenges and the obstacles that I had to overcome, and also the joys and the victories that came along with it. So if you didn't watch that, you can go up here and see the whole thing from the very beginning. 35 videos, day one to the very end. It was a challenge, and it wasn't so much that the trail was hard. The trail is definitely hard in places and it's easy in other places. It really turned out to be kind of a personal struggle that I needed to work through, and I'm glad I did. You might recall as I was heading down Hope Pass, I shared some thoughts about the parallels between life and the trail, and I think that the whole trail experience, the whole through hike, kind of turned out to be a metaphor for some of the things that I have been through in the past few years. Through hiking the Appalachian Trail in 2018 turned out to be a really amazing experience, even though it was difficult for me. It gave me the strength in doing things that I didn't think I could do to get through the unexpected divorce that I faced when I got home. I had been married for 32 years. I didn't see it coming, and it was like a nuclear bomb that had dropped in my life. The fallout cloud from that was something that seemed to be hanging over my life for years. It was getting better, but if you've been through that, you know that there are good times and bad times as you're recovering from the emotional trauma. It was interesting looking back to see, as I climbed some mountains or some boulder areas that I just didn't think I could get over, that I did, and I would look back on that experience as I was going through the divorce. But then I also need to move forward. And the Colorado Trail taught me that I could do that. I think it taught me that even though things can be really hard and at times really, really scary, there's still joy to be found in those experiences. So I'm coming back and I'm really looking forward to the future and thinking about how I can move my life forward. I'm 57, so at times it feels like, oh my gosh, I've lived all my best years, but I know I haven't. I know there's a lot more to come, and so I'm thankful for the Colorado Trail experience for that gift. My time on the Colorado Trail showed me that you can come back from defeat, that failures do not define your future, and that joy can be hiding around any corner if you're open to experiencing it. With that said, I wanted to share answers to some questions that people tend to ask me about my adventure. So I'm going to do that, and then be sure to stay to the end, because if you want some facts and figures, some stats about my hike, I'm going to put those at the very end of this video. So question number one, what makes the Colorado Trail so great? I'd say there are really two things. The first, obviously, is the views. As you can see from my videos, they are epic, breathtaking, heart-stopping, amazing views all along the trail. So that's number one, and maybe not in this order. Number two is the people, from the other hikers from all over the world to the trail angels, and I definitely did meet some angels along my way, to the people in towns. Lake City comes to mind as the number one trail town. That whole community stepped out to help hikers with a hiker feed on Sunday nights and a shuttle to and from the trail that didn't cost anything. But there are lots of people willing to pick up hitchhikers, lots of people willing to help out with advice, with rides, all of those kinds of things. So it was really an amazing trail community, both on and off the trail. Question number two is, why was the trail so hard? And I know from talking to a lot of other hikers, it wasn't just me feeling like the trail was hard. I certainly have my own personal challenges, but I think there's mental and physical aspects of it. As I mentioned at the beginning, if you're not in ideal shape, and that being probably an ultra runner who's used to backpacking, because I did talk to some ultra runners who said, yeah, I can run, but backpacking's a whole different thing. It's physical. You have to get your trail legs underneath you. It takes time. You have to adjust to altitude. There's all those kinds of issues. And the mental challenges, particularly I think as you're older, although I did realize from talking to hikers who were half my age that they were also dealing with some mental battles, particularly if they were hiking solo. So I'm going to do a little ebook or a short book about that, just whether hiking solo is worth it or not, advantages, disadvantages, all that good stuff. That's going to be coming soon. But yes, it's a mental and a physical challenge. The balance is different depending on who you are. Some people it might be, 80% physical and 20% mental. For me, it was probably 60% mental and 40% physical. But no matter who you are, I think there's that issue of finding the balance between mental and physical conditioning, mental health, physical health. That is what makes this trail and probably any long distance trail a challenge. Question number 3, what was my best day? Hands down, no question, it was the second to last day. It was amazing, and that was the day after Gunslinger and I cut our miles short for the day by 4 miles. So we were trying to get to Durango. We wanted to get there quickly, obviously, but we had the most epic views that morning, and we got up and saw the sun rising over the mountains in just an absolutely glorious way. The sections of the trail that we were doing, there were these rock bridges, I guess, breathtaking and scary because there's really steep thousands of feet down on either side, but just amazing. I don't know how the trail maintainers actually built those, but they were really cool. And the summit, just one of the summits where there were just wildflowers everywhere, and we got to sit and just enjoy the views and savor the whole entirety of the hike. That was a really special day. All right, question number 4. What was my worst day on the trail? My first reaction might be to tell you the day that I fell down the snowbank, but I think emotionally a more difficult day for me it was just really tough was the day before I got to Cottonwood Pass, because I have been struggling all day. I have trouble on long, slow uphills, and the trail was just beating me that day. And then I got within 3 miles of Cottonwood Pass, which was a huge milestone for me, and I couldn't go across because of thunderstorms. And I stopped early, and then I was second guessing my decision. I thought maybe I was just being a wimp. I was really beating myself up for it. And then thankfully another couple came along and they told me, well, we made one dumb decision this morning. We're not going to make another, so we're staying too. Turned out to be a great choice, but just emotionally, because I was so close to that goal of getting to Cottonwood Pass, and because I was having such a tough day, it was really probably my worst day on the trail, at least the most emotionally defeating. All right, we are up to question number 5, which is what is my biggest challenge, or what was my biggest challenge? It was actually Lake Ann Pass, and I say that because Lake Ann Pass was a big challenge. I started worrying about it before I even hit the trail. I worried about it every day on the trail until I got there because of the snow cornice. Last year when I did Lake Ann Pass, it scared me. There's a huge rock fall there. I lost the trail. The trail was really steep and narrow, and it was scary, but a couple other hikers caught up to me as I was going up, and we ended up doing the summit of the pass together, and it worked out fine. This year I was solo, other than seeing some hikers who I believe maybe were Russian coming down. They were heading Nobo, and the lady looked at me and she's like, that is very dangerous. And, not the encouragement that I needed. But I climbed it. I got up the snow cornice by myself, although I was completely terrified. I got up to the top and I was just like, I feel like I just climbed Everest. A year ago I said I would never climb this pass again. It was hard and scary without snow, but I did it. Oh my gosh, I did it. So that was hands down my biggest challenge. And I, of course, didn't know what challenges were to come beyond that, but looking at the entirety of the whole hike, Lake Ann Pass was it. All right, that brings me to question number 6, which is, what was your most emotional day on the trail? And there were plenty of them. There were absolutely plenty of them. But for me, it had to be the day that I actually reached Cottonwood Pass. And I knew it was a big day. I knew it was momentous because that's where I got off trail last year when I had decided to end my hike because of my health. And so the whole time I was rehiking from Waterton to Cottonwood Pass, I was constantly thinking about what was this like last year, doing comparisons, and it really wasn't as joyous, I guess, to be hiking trail that I had already hiked on. So there was that aspect of the hike, and then there was also just hitting that milestone of I have succeeded in going beyond where I went before. So I have surpassed the challenge that I met last year, which was hiking while sick. And I did not expect all the challenges that I was going to have in the first part of the hike this year. So it was really a big deal for me to get there. And I just didn't realize how much until I walked up and I saw the sign there. And I dropped my pack by the fence and I just lost it. I managed to hold back tears long enough to have somebody take my picture. And then I turned around and I leaned on the fence and I just started crying. And the gentleman came out of his car and he's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yes, I'm okay." These are, tears of joy, tears of relief. And we ended up having a wonderful conversation. It was just a very, very emotional day. And it went on to continue to be emotional, which you will hear about in just a minute. So let's move on to question number 7, which was, what was my scariest day on the trail? And you might think it was 𝐒𝐿𝐵𝐻 Pass. You might also think it was the day that I fell down the snowbank, but it wasn't. It absolutely was the day when I climbed to the high point after Cottonwood Pass. So once I got beyond that milestone of finishing what I had hiked last year and getting ready to start new trail, I was greeted by a long climb up to the high point. Well, it was only 0.9 miles and I think like 400 feet of elevation. But when I got to the very top of it, there was a steep snowbank. And it was a different angle than 𝐒𝐿𝐵𝐻 Pass was kind of, you could almost climb it like a ladder. This was more of like 45 degrees or so. And it required me at least to kind of go hand over fist to get up, almost like I was crawling up the mountain. And at first I thought, well, can I go around the snowbank? There was some loose soil with rocks in it on the right, and I decided I don't want to go that way because it doesn't look safe. But when I got to the top of the climb, I couldn't find the trail. And so I had to climb up that very same type of terrain to get to the very top. I couldn't see the top, I couldn't see the trail, I didn't know where I was going. And down below me, the trail just kind of went straight down. It looked like 1,000 feet. I don't know, it was long enough to kill you. So anyway, I was really, really scared and I didn't have anything to do, any place to go but up. So I went up and I found a big boulder as it got near the top to try to figure out exactly where I was and where to go. And I kind of leaned against it in a very awkward way and then could see the top, the flat of the high point. And so I just did one last push and scrambled up there. Took 3 steps on flat ground, completely collapsed, and literally just cried for the second time that day. It was what I call my death-defying climb, and I definitely would not want to repeat it. But I do still wonder how people like day hikers were getting up there. Clearly they were better at keeping track of the trail than I was. So I realized later as I was talking to other hikers that they had done the same thing. So it wasn't just me. It was just a tricky little stretch and super scary. All right, question number 8. What kind of wildlife did I see on the trail? I think my favorite thing was the marmots. They live in rocks and they're kind of about the size of cats and they chatter a lot and they're not shy. So they were really fun every time you got up near the top of a mountain and they would just be boop, 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 chirping at you. And the pikas were really cute too. I saw elk, I saw lots of deer. I didn't see any bears, which I guess surprised me from all you hear about bears on the trail, but I guess they're pretty reclusive out there. And I saw a mountain lion, which was absolutely amazing. I do believe it's a mountain lion way up there. That is so cool. I wanted to see one since I moved to Colorado, but of course I wanted to see one at a safe distance and not up close and personal. And that's what happened. So I was really, really excited about that. That was probably my #1 wildlife sighting of the trail. But it was interesting because some areas you didn't see any wildlife at all except birds. And then towards the end, we saw a whole bunch. So it was pretty cool. It's a beautiful trail. It's wonderful to see wildlife out there. All right, question number 9. We are almost done. Is how did the trail change over the course of my hike? And it's interesting because it started out hot and dry the first few days up through Waterdam Canyon. Even though there's water there, you're on a wide, hot road. And you're going through burn areas and that sort of thing. And then towards the end, the last few days, it also got very hot and dry. So I felt that was kind of interesting, but over the course of the trail, of course, you're almost 500 miles, it changes a lot and it changes from day to day. So there were some absolutely stunning meadows to walk through, miles and miles of meadows, cow areas where there's cows everywhere, woods, and the woods changed from, pines and spruce to aspen. And gosh, it was such a diverse trail that I really, really loved it for that. And of course, there are the views, the high mountains, walking across rock falls one day, or it seemed like the whole morning was just rock fall after rock fall after rock fall, a little ways past Cottonwood Pass. So it was really a diverse trail, and I think the diversity and watching the trail change was part of the fun of the experience. And even just things like the rocks, you would change from maybe sandy colored rocks and dry, little tiny scree, to walking through gray boulders, to red rocks, to green rocks even. So it's really, really cool how diverse and how ever-changing the trail turned out to be. We have reached question number 10, and that is, would you do the Colorado Trail again? And the answer is absolutely yes. I definitely would do the Colorado Trail again, although I would prefer to do it with a buddy next time. And it probably wouldn't be next year, obviously. I need a little bit of time and I want to hike some other trails, but it would be so much fun to do that trail with somebody else, because as you know, I had a lot of struggles hiking solo on this trail. Even though I do love hiking solo, it can be an amazing thing to do, but this trail was particularly difficult for me for so many reasons. And it was so much more fun when I reconnected with Gunslinger in Lake City. Even though that was towards the end of the trail, we just had the best time the last several days of the trail. It was so much fun to be able to share the experience with somebody, and not just for safety, but because I think when you're hiking alone, you can see things that other people don't, but you also might miss things. So, as we were hiking together, one of us might be like, oh, look, there's an elk over there. Did you see that bird? Or look at these flowers. Those kinds of things are fun to share with somebody else. And so I definitely would want to do it again with a friend. So it would be awesome if Andy could do it with me at some point. If not, who knows, just a hiking buddy, not to be with side by side all day long, because I think it is important, even if you're hiking with somebody, to have some alone time to just sort of process and appreciate things. There's nothing better than sitting alone on the top of a mountain, having second breakfast, or just soaking in the views or reflecting on life. So that's an experience that I think everybody should have, even if you're hiking with a tramley or with a buddy. But definitely, if I were to do it again, I want to go with somebody. I think it would just enrich the experience tremendously, and so that would be my plan. So those are my reflections on my Colorado Trail through hike. I hope you enjoyed that. And if you want to know some stats about how long it took me to hike and things like that, they are coming up right here.